right, well, welcome everybody to the CRE Arena. Today we have Mr. Faraz Cheema with BK which is Bob Knakal's group. Faraz, man, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, anytime, Augie.
Yeah, this is good, man. I'm excited. So, before we get into all the things, man, it's been about a year, I believe, since you've been with Bob. You guys are absolutely crushing it and really setting the world on fire up there. So, before we get into all that, man, I really want to take it back kind of to the grassroots. How did you get started in the business? Were you always interested in real estate? And how did you get in the commercial side of business and really to, where you are today?
Yeah, so good question, Augie. I've always had some kind of interest in commercial real estate. One of the things I wanted to do when I was a kid was be an architect. I was always fascinated with buildings, but when I realized you needed to do calculus to be an architect because there's no civil engineering component, yeah, I mean, listen, I'm good at math, but not calculus, so that was
Yep. Yep.
automatically out. Um, being a broker, I would say is somewhat of an accident. But look, I'll tell you like the original story. Um, I'm pretty much heavily involved, like, and still to this day with my family office. Um, Originally, my father like immigrated here from Pakistan. He dropped out of med school. When he came here, he saw the opportunities in the States. So he figured, you know what, instead of finishing up my senior year, I'll pursue the American dream. And originally he ended up in New York, but when he was seeing a friend in DC, he thought DC had more opportunity. It was more family friendly oriented. So basically worked a bunch of odd jobs. And when I was born, and as far as back as I can remember, it was me, my brother, and my sister in a one-bedroom apartment with my parents. We were on Columbia Road in Adams, Morgan. Right across the street was my dad's dry cleaning store. He would be in the dry cleaner from 6:30 in the morning, right before it opens at 7, till 7:30 at night. He would come home, eat dinner, then he would drive taxi till like 1, 2 o'clock in the morning and do it all over again.
Sheesh.
But how we got into real estate, he sold a business with his partner, which to this day he's still very good friends with. Like we still partner on deals with. But he decided to do check cashing because he thought people were getting overcharged from back in the day, 5-10% in the 90s. So he decided to do 1%. Make it more affordable to everybody. We grew that to over 50 locations. As any owner user that becomes that successful, you want to go from, instead of leasing, you want to own.
Yep.
So, look, we were buying small pad sites, we were buying strip centers. Like, the idea was put one of our stores in there and then the rest would be tenanted. It'd pay for the building and our
Yep.
space was free. That was the logic. When the GFC happened, we were very cash heavy. We were buying limited service hotels, 40 on the dollar, near BWI Airport, Dulles Airport, and we had one out near the Virginia Beach area. Um, Look, like very high risk but high return if you were willing to hold out. Um, at that point, like our highest time, we were at like 900 keys. We've winded down to 400 keys. Um, we're over now like 800,000 square feet of retail. We are now probably at, like I said, 400 keys of hospitality. We never did multifamily before. Right now we're at 200 units. We're close to 300 units if this deal that we're currently actively working on goes through. So that'll still be determined. We're literally negotiating the contract at this point.
Let's go.
The one thing I never thought I'd see the day happen, because my dad was very anti-office. And look, the Crexy podcast comes out June 1st, and I haven't mentioned this on the Crexy podcast. So depending on when this comes out,
Yeah, yeah.
this might come out after the Crexy podcast. So
Probably will. Yeah.
yeah, this is now like a recent change. My dad was very anti-office. We now are one of four partners, all cash, on a 481,000 square foot B plus office building. It was already at like a 10% cap rate. Now we put a law firm in. Now we're at 13%. It's 7 acres in Tyson's Corner, but we're all cash, no debt. But look, the basis on that type of deal, if you're familiar with that area, it's right next to the Galleria. It's right next to the 495 exit. Great covered land play.
Yep.
So and it's funny because I would ask him, like, I already knew what his answer was going to be, but I said, like, why are you actually going to office? I'm like, I couldn't pass it up at this point.
Yeah, yeah, that's incredible, man. What a cool upbringing. And so, from seeing that, about what age did your dad really start to? What age for you did your dad start to take stride versus like, hey, living in one bedroom and seeing him, work 20 hours a day, driving taxis and running a store, to
Yeah.
like, hey, now I started the check cashing versus like, hey, this is actually going to be successful, multiple locations, and now to massive portfolio.
So when I was 7, we moved out to Herndon, Virginia. Like that was no longer the 20 hours a day. Like you'd be home by like 9 o'clock. I would say it really kicked in during like middle school, high school, like all the accumulation of wealth, especially high school, because that's when the GFC happened. I mean, look, there were some scary points because like he felt like he over leveraged. One thing I have to give props to my dad is he always put his people first. So, we have about like over 200, 300 employees. He didn't lay off a single one. He always thought like his employees should come first. He said, look, if I fire somebody with 50,000 like annual income, yeah, I could get that in my pocket, but that's their whole livelihood for the family. So I've always respected my dad for that. He I wouldn't say he's a super religious guy, but he always thanks God for everything, and he always believes in giving back. No, and it's funny because like as you're growing up, you're not. He would never really tell us what was going on until
Yeah,
maybe like towards my broker years. I actually knew how much he had.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I remember when I got in the brokerage and I made my first 6 figures in the industry, and I said like, hey, what should I invest in? And he said, why? And he's like, yeah, I want to do the same thing you did. And he's like, do you not know how much we have? I'm like, I think I have an idea. I was completely off. And he's like, Franz, I can't take this with me. Like, do what you want with the money. So I ended up like kept reinvesting in my business.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
but no, it's my dad just turned 70, so I'm actually a little bit more involved in the family office. I was somewhat involved before going to New York because I was involved in the acquisition. I didn't do any of our leasing if we had partners in the deal because that'd be a conflict of interest. Um, but yeah, like I kind of lost in tune when I was up in New York. Um, Majority of the week, I still go back sometimes, like to DC to see the family. It's only a 3-hour train ride.
Yep.
Um, I don't really advertise it, but I still go back. And then I'm back here during the work week. Um, but yeah, like this office building, for example, when I'm going through the financial statements, I'm like, when did this
Yeah, yeah. That's
So,
funny, man.
so, no, yeah, so there you go. Like part of me wanted to be an architect, but like I felt like I wasn't smart enough. Part of it was like family upbringing. I will say, like people ask me like why did I end up at Gold Banker in DC in the beginning? I was just literally looking to hang a license. Um, like any of the small stuff we bought, like 1 to 5 million, typically paid a commission. And look, I figured, hey, if I have a license, go somewhere high split, I could pick up some fees. I didn't think I'd end up having this kind of like as my main job.
Yep.
Where, look, I mean, look, I'm at the point now where um, the family office stuff, you know, we have a lot. I don't want to go into details how much we have in assets,
Yep.
but as a family office, when you're buying 20, $30 million worth of stuff a year, it's not like an institution that has to constantly put out money. I mean, look, we in the last 18 months, we went on a huge spending spree because the years prior we couldn't really buy anything. So either we're in strategic like LPGP situations, like I told you, like the one deal we have was 23%, the other deal is 40%. We just bought like we have a strip center, like 100% ownership, 7 mil. We're under contract for another like 7.6, but owner financing. But no, like in a typical year, it's around 20 to 30. This year, if we get this multifamily building, it'll be 68 mil in 18 months.
Yeah, yeah, and that's awesome, man. This is so cool, and I remember we talked about this previously, just briefly, but I didn't expect this conversation to go this way,
Yeah.
which I really do love, because. So a lot myself. So I'll just speak for myself, and probably a lot of other people listening to the podcast. They probably want to do well for themselves, or they already are doing very well for themselves, and they have aspirations to grow even further, right? The biggest thing with having material success and having a family is like, man, I want my kids to turn out great, right? And you're a very smart guy, you're a very credible guy, you seem extremely hardworking, you have great ethics and morals about you. And so, you know, how did your dad raise you in a way where it's like, hey, even though we have much in many things, like hard work, strong moral compass, you know, how did he really direct that? Was that seeing him, you know, from, you know, the bottom to the top sort of thing, or was he intentional about your development?
All right, so I wouldn't interrupt this podcast if I did not think it could massively benefit your business. If you do deals with commercial property owners, then you need REC. You can fly the map, you can prospect owners like never before, up to 160 million parcels with mass prospecting features, and you can put more deals in your pipeline all within one platform. So head over to GetREC, that's GetREHQ.com/arena for a special offer solely for our podcast listeners. I'll see you there.
I think it was just literally seeing it bottom from top to bottom. I mean, it's
Yep.
funny. We were literally joking at lunch today about this. Like, we're in the conference room, my colleagues, which I'll turn right kick. So if you aren't familiar with the map room, you know, here's the map. But our cubes are right over there. So
awesome.
you can see the guys working hard away.
Yep.
No, so like two of my colleagues, like Jazz and Justin, you know, they met my dad, and they will say he is probably like one of the nicest guys, but how, like Jazz would say, like, how is he related to Faraz? Because like I'm pretty blunt, I curse a lot. My dad thanks God in like every 3 sentences.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
That's funny, man. And so you just think it was like, hey, you witnessing it firsthand, watch the struggle to, you know, the mountaintop, if you will, and that's given you the appreciation for the work ethic, for the moral compass. It's just by learning from, you know, the man himself.
Yeah. I would say that through osmosis.
Yep. That's cool, man. And then, so what about? And what have you taken there for the next generation? And I don't know if you have brothers or sisters or nieces and nephews, but like,
I'm the oldest. I'm the oldest of 5.
oh, gotcha.
Yeah,
So
go ahead.
how are they? Go ahead.
Well, it's funny because like we all had like all my siblings are completely different. I would say the one that's closest to me is my youngest brother, who's 14-year age gap. He's 21. I'm 35. He was actually in New York yesterday. He interned with Bob last summer.
Yep.
You know, he wanted to be in sports management, and you know, me, Jazz, Ryan were asking him like, what does he want to do? And he's like, no, I want to be in real estate. And we asked him like, do you want to be a developer? You want to be an asset manager? You know, part of us were kind of shocked when he said, no, I want to be a broker.
Right.
Yeah.
That's funny. So he interned with you guys, and how'd that go?
Yeah, last year, and he came up for the master class with Rod.
Gotcha. That's awesome, man. I love that, and very cool to see. Yes, your family have success, but then also produce, you know, yourself, and then also brothers and sisters that are sharp and getting after it. So that's a really cool thing to see. Okay, so switching gears a little bit here, how did you first get teamed up with Bob? How did this happen? How'd you get recruited? How'd that go?
Me and Bob both started social media same time. I think Bob technically started a little bit sooner, like, because I thought it was January 2023. I think it was really September 2022, but I started at the same time, you know, liking his stories, like commenting, getting to know, like asking him questions and stuff. We met in the map room in August. We hit it off, and we kept seeing each other at events, and it got to a point where we became really good buddies. And then when the opportunity presented itself, I knew 6 weeks before it went public. I made the ask. I thought, like, look, I was a pretty good broker already in DC. I was doing like 40 to 60 deals a year. Yep. I was already like an SIOR at that point. You already know like the fee requirements you have to do that. But yep. I guess I was kind of getting bored, and I wanted a challenge. So I felt like, why not learn from the best?
Yeah. That's incredible, man. And so how? And so it's been a little over a year. Is that right so far?
June 1st will be official year.
Gotcha. Okay. So you're now in a position, yes, to learn from one of the best to ever do it. What have you learned from Bob Knakal so far today?
One, I came up as like I built my business in DC, like through networking, relationships, and everything. I wanted to come up because Bob is a master cold caller. I don't know who would actually admit liking cold calling. I didn't like cold calling, but no, I mean, look, it's like taking your medicine, right? Like you have to have a plan of attack. You have to cold call, 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 call. So I became a much better cold caller. I would say like what's the worst somebody's gonna do? Tell you no?
Yep.
That's one. Two, knowing market knowledge inside and out. I don't depend on CoStar or anything. I spent the first 2 months building all the office comp data. I can tell you so basically we use a metric. I track all office buildings below 60th Street, above 20,000 square feet. Because anything under 20,000 can either be a user sale or a development sale, which will skew the data. I can tell you in 2020, price per square foot based on that metric was 1,041 a foot. 2021, 906 a foot. 2022, 800 a foot. 2023, 781 a foot. 2024, biggest drop we've ever seen from 2020 to 2024. 52.7% decline, $492 a foot. We've seen a slight uptick at 517 a foot last quarter, but the previous years was anywhere from 16 to 25 transactions, anywhere from 2.2 to 4.1 million square feet. Last year, 40 transactions, 9.6 million square feet.
Wow.
So and then like to give you another set, like we track every single office to resi, any mention, any article. We get insider data from like owners that's not on the press. Look, just to give you an idea, from 2020 to 2024, it was 16.9 million square feet slated for conversion. Then, as of last quarter, 18 million square feet. We're now at over 21 million square feet, just strictly in Manhattan from 2020 to 2024. Well, now 2025. And like, look, we just had a deal that was mentioned today that still needs to be updated. I'm literally pulling it up on my phone right now. I sent it to Teddy, one of our interns. I can tell you exactly the deal. Like Van Barton just buys 6 East 43rd Street from Milstein Management for $140 million. I mean, I have to get all the square footage and all that, but like literally every week this is being updated.
So cold callers one, market knowledge is two. What was the third?
And the third is always staying in touch with your clients. Like, I would always send out reports like maybe every 2-3 weeks. No, here we send it every week. Even if there's nothing to report, we still put the report out. It's got to be out by the weekend. But by doing all those things, I felt like I mean, look, Bob will mention it all the time. It's blocking and tackling, but nobody, and like it's very fundamental stuff, but nobody wants to do it.
Yep.
Yeah, so
Simple,
it's a lot
simple,
of stuff
not
that
easy. Yep, simple, not easy. No, that's good. Okay, so you're located in quote unquote the city that never sleeps.
Yeah.
What does a typical day in the life look like of a BKREA advisor? But what about a day, and then what about like an entire week? What does that look like?
So I will say, like, I really hate to admit this, but like I'm probably out of all the guys in the office, I feel kind of bad because I feel like I'm the least hardest working. I mean, I know like Ryan and Jazz, like they're up till 2-3 a.m. on execution and stuff, but like I really believe in like time blocking. In the beginning, like I was all over the place, but I will tell you my typical day: Monday's paperwork, Tuesday through Thursday, emails in the morning, tours with owners, and then lunch meeting. After that, I cold call till my AirPods die. I'm
I
dead
love
serious.
that.
I cold call till my AirPods die.
That's hilarious. What a good metric. So
Yeah.
what time? What time do you get up? What time do you get up? What time does the office start roaring in the morning? And then what time? I know you said some of
Office
the
is
guys
typically
are late.
8 a.m. to 7 p.m. There are some times where it's very rare, like 8, 9. I will say my typical days, I get up at 6. I'm not really out till 10, maybe 9, because I'm doing meetings and whatnot. Then I have a lunch meeting. I may stop for the office in between, but really from 1:32 till 5:36, I am cold calling. It has to be calls. I'm calling owners for some reason.
Yep. Yep. And then, so how many properties are you tracking or on your list that you're currently calling through?
I will, so like if you follow Rod Santomassimo, you have a top 100 and top 300 prospect list, but I target office buildings from 60th Street all the way down to 14th Street, 20,000 square feet to 200,000 square feet. That's a total of 800, and it has to be pre 1980s. That is 833 office buildings in that metric. And look, most people will tell you you want a prospect list of somewhere between 500 to 1,000. Anything under 500 might be too small. Anything over
Yep.
1,000 is too large.
Yep. No, totally makes sense. And so, I assume have you contacted, have you got in touch with every owner yet, or are there still those out
No,
there
still,
that you?
still going through the list, but I will tell you, I'm originating a lot of stuff outside of office. My and look, I'm a big believer of being a team player. I always put people on like wherever their territory is or whatnot. Me and my colleague Jazz, who came up with me from DC, we literally had a meeting during Bob's book launch yesterday. We're pitching a development site. The meeting went well. That the guy gave us a 44,000 square foot lot in Queens. Jazz looked it up. It's by right 200,000 square foot buildable, but he wants to upzone it. But look, like at the end of the day, like even if it's like if it's not your specialty type, like always be asking the question, like, is there anything else you need help with?
Yep. That's a great metric, man. Great metric and great team culture. What would you say about the culture there at BKREA? Like, if you could
Work
describe
hard,
it.
play hard.
Work hard, play hard. Okay, so I'm not sure if we can mention this on the pod. Might have to edit this out, but we know what work hard looks like. What does play hard look like in the
We're
world of
always
BKREA?
at networking events. We're always like, look, like 2 weeks ago, we were at a ping pong tournament.
Okay.
No, we're going to happy hours. We're literally trying to get in front of any owners we can. So like usually after 5, 6, we're out to networking events.
Yep. That makes sense, man. That's a lot of fun. Okay, and then for sales activity, and I guess with who you're meeting with, how many groups or what's the ratio as far as like private wealthy individuals versus funds and investment groups?
Bob will tell you we primarily work with private capital.
Yep.
Um, we don't really like we do work with institutions, but that's not our primary focus. Like in New York, you'd be surprised with family offices that have like office buildings for like over 100, $200 million, and these are still family offices.
That's crazy, man. That's a big number. Okay, very good. Well, hey, man, before we roll, before we get out of here, we got the wheel. We're gonna spin the wheel. We do this every episode, and here's the rule: is I'll spin the wheel. You will pick a topic, and no, the wheel picks a topic,
Yep.
and then we will jam on it, and then you get to replace the topic with whatever you choose. All right. So here we go.
So what is it?
We have biggest win. So what has been your biggest win in the commercial real estate business?
So let me give you two. One is from my prior, and then one is my first deal up here in BKREA.
Yep.
Prior in DC, I had a client that it was a referral from a residential agent. I'm a strong believer of referral business. They had a client that needed to sell 5 multifamily buildings in Santa Monica, a 5, 3, 6 units, and a 12 unit, and they were in a 1031 exchange. I ended up putting them in a Chase Bank in Chevy Chase, Maryland, 15 years, 4.2 cap, CVS 20 years, absolute triple net. That was a 5.5 cap. Walgreens 6.8 cap at that one, yeah, 6.8 cap that had 9 years left. That was for slightly under $19 million. Biggest check I made on that deal.
Yep.
In New York, 21.34 million. You know, everybody's shocked about this deal we sold. It's 363 7th Avenue. It's outside of Midtown South rezoning. It's corner building. We basically sold it for a 6.8 cap. It had 83% occupied. Walt was only 2.92 years. It needed 3 million of capex, and like again, like to pay that low of a cap, that much Walt left, and needed all that capex. People were shocked that we got that high of a market clearing price.
Yeah. And you said that was your first deal at BK?
Yeah, in New York.
Wow, that's awesome, man. Love those wins. I know you guys are going to keep them coming. You guys are doing an incredible job, man. So last thing before we go, anything you want to tell the people about, you want to share, something that's, you know, coming up? I know Bob's got a book that he just released, but...
Well, everybody's been asking me why I've been on the social detox, because a lot of people haven't seen me on social.
Yep.
I mean, look, everybody knew me on social. I was like Mr. Everywhere, closing deals and everything, but I kind of came to the conclusion, like, you know, when you move to a different market, unless you're doing corporate service tenant rep or you're doing triple net deals, you're restarting your book from scratch.
Yeah.
I had to focus on what mattered most, was getting my calls in, getting the meetings. I literally came to the conclusion, like, I couldn't travel as much because I needed to focus what mattered, and I needed to reorganize because I was all over the place. So that's why I have this very effective time blocking method. Changing markets, you can do it, but like, it's not going to be easy, but you can do it.
You got to lock in and focus. And like you said, social media, it's a lot of people all over the country. It's great, but if you're transacting buildings in a certain number of blocks, especially, you got a territory. Hey, if they're not in that territory, then you know, you got to dial in and focus on what matters. So awesome, man. Well, this has been great. I'll be sure to drop links below where people can jump in Twitter or X and LinkedIn, and also your contact information if people want to reach out. But Faraz, man, thank you so much. And everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. Be sure to catch the next episode, share this, tag somebody else, and we'll see you next time.